So Grace, from a young age, started as a hobby, developing a passion to play the violin, becoming proficient in competing in state, regional, and national competitions. It's one of her hallmarks. And besides that, she also received instructions from the Wausau Conservatory of Music. This last weekend, they had a gala fundraiser that she presented through a recording to help them in their program. But I understand she has a lot of affection for the conservatory. 2019, Grace graduated from the Wausau West High School. And during that time, you're going to hear something about busy people. Brad just mentioned, you're wondering when you have time for school. She was crowned Miss Wisconsin Outstanding Teen in 2017. After the pageant, she spent up to 1,200 hours in that role, serving the state, ranging from Girl Scouts to speaking and performing and in her expertise of violin, all the way up to national levels. So 1,200 hours of busy on top of being at Wausau West. And to add to that, she's also earned an associate's degree from the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point at Wausau. It's always a mouthful. We used to like to call it MC. And she did that during her high school tenure that gave her advanced standing for college. So outstanding. At the end of the senior year is when this club awards 5 $1,000 Rotary scholarships to individual seniors. And we do so because, as Brad Peck pointed out a minute ago, our club stands for service. Rotary International is all about service, and service of self is our motto. When we offered this scholarship, and Mr. Campbell was one of the originators way back in the mid-'80s, I understand, that set this scholarship in motion. And I can't tell you how many scholars we've awarded since then till now, but we did so by establishing 2 criteria that are fashioned after our motto. We need to see demonstrated involvement in community and volunteer service, including in school and community, and leadership roles. So some examples that popped up on Grace's application. In 2016, she established the Circle of Support platform, creating packages for cancer patients and their families across the state of Wisconsin, partnering with the Girl Scouts to promote community service. And about that service, I quote Grace, "I wanted to make people's lives easier. I wanted to make them feel that spark of joy." And my sense is that probably was the case. So thank you. She also volunteered in many other roles at Aspirus, National Honor Society, Children's Miracle Network, and Stable Hands. Did you sleep at all?
Still don't.
Right now, Grace is a senior at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, majoring in nuclear engineering. She originally had 2 fascinations, aerospace and nuclear engineering. Here's what she mentioned about the focus that she's in. Growing up, I've always had engineering around me. My dad was an engineer and would bring me to work, and I thought he was saving the world. Now, my preschool dreaming might have been overstating it, but those thoughts still exist, except now I want to save the world from one of the biggest issues, its primary power source. And I think she's on a course to definitely work towards making this country and world a better place. In 2022, Grace was crowned Miss Wisconsin. She was the first woman to hold both the Miss Wisconsin and teen titles from the people who competed before. So that's a special precedence. 2023, I think maybe you saw the news, it was in our local media. In December, she was crowned Miss America, winning the talent portion, performing pieces from Vivaldi on her electric violin. We forgot to ask her to bring that so she could give us a few bars, but anyway, we're very tickled that that is the case. I think there's some YouTube video out there showing that. But the last little fun fact I want to share with you in introducing her is this fact. She's a firm believer that peanut butter makes every meal better. So would you all please help me welcome Grace Stanke, Miss America.
You know, one funny thing, so it always said, I think they have in my Miss America bio or something that I played electric violin on stage. It wasn't electric, it was just acoustic. So
Okay.
I do play electric though. But I really want to start this off with talking about the Uthrotarians and the opportunity that you guys have here I never had access to Rotary as a high schooler. I didn't get this invite. I don't know if it was happening when I was in high school or not, but I did join Rotaract when I went to school at UW-Madison. So the collegiate version of Rotary, but meant for just the college kids on campus at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And that really allowed me to network with so many incredible people. So when they invite you back, seriously, I highly recommend coming back, just listening, chatting, connecting with these people, because one of them might offer you like an internship down the road. For you going into welding, I'm just saying, for me personally, nuclear welding, we need people if you want to become nuclear welding specialized, but different topic. But seriously, take advantage of this opportunity. These people are here to support you and they're here to help you. And I cannot advise and recommend that enough, because Rotary is a great resource. I've had experience with the Madison, the Milwaukee, and the Wausau Rotary clubs now. And each and every one of them, they have that passion for service and promoting the youth. And that really happened even in 2019 when I received that scholarship that kicked off my education at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I was just saying, as I was walking in today, I'm like, I should have found my essay and read through it. I wonder how much has changed, because in 2019, one thing was common. When I wrote that essay, I had a passion for energy and passion for our electricity grid and things like that. But never did I picture myself going into nuclear. In all honesty, I always thought that I would just end up in aerospace engineering or something along those lines, and came down to spite that actually led me to go into nuclear. I was talking to my dad and I said, should I do aerospace or nuclear? Nuclear just sounds really cool. Sounds like a flex, right? Like, what could go wrong? And he goes, well, Grace, he's my dad and I'm 16 at the time. He goes, well, Grace, don't go into nuclear. There's no future there. All the power plants are shutting down. And I'm not going to lie, he was right. At the time, they weren't. Like, it wasn't good in 2016, 17, whenever that was. But I'm 16 years old, and when my dad tells me not to do something, what do you think I do? Yeah, all you high schoolers might be thinking the same thing. Maybe not. Maybe you're better with your parents, but I love mine dearly. They are fantastic and so supportive. But I actually went into nuclear engineering simply because of that. So once I got into school at UW-Madison, I was like, okay, I'm in this major that I really am not sure about, if I'm being completely honest, but what is it about? And that's when I got exposed to hands-on research. I became involved in research right away at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and learning the different applications, learning about how my dad is alive today because of nuclear medicine. You mentioned circles of support. My inspiration for that was my dad went through cancer twice. Both times it was a struggle. The first time I was in 4th, 5th grade, I didn't understand what was going on. The second time I was a freshman in high school, and it was scary because I knew what was going on. We learned about what cancer was in biology class. And I said, well, now what? How do I help this when I'm just a 15-year-old girl sitting in my bio class? But we learned that the little things in my dad's journey through cancer, like just a tie blanket, a nail file, because they don't allow nail clippers in the hospital, puzzle books, card games, things like that go a long ways, because I firmly believe cancer is both a mental and physical battle. If it's a positive mindset for the patient, it's going to go a lot better in the long run. And I'm sure many of you have had experience with cancer in your lives. I see a lot of head nodding. It's unfortunate, but will be cancer eventually one of these days. And I believe it's in nuclear medicine. That's a rant for a different time. But I want to talk a little bit more about Wausau and growing up here. I graduated from Wausau West. I went to Newman for 3 years actually as well. So I have a combination of public and private education. I started out at South Mountain Elementary School in Rib Mountain and went there for all of elementary school. I was in their gifted and talented program. And once I got into middle school, I was a 6th grader, and I was finding that I wasn't getting enough of a challenge in my classes. I was literally falling asleep and still getting 100%. Now, this is a confession. When I get bored, I cause problems. So I said, I can't be bored in my classes. I went into administrators and asked to be placed in some harder curriculum courses. And because of some certain policies and restrictions surrounding the education system, they weren't able to do that right away. It wasn't that easy where I could say, hey, my grades are obviously good. I need something more. Not only did they not believe an 11-year-old child, but they were like, it's not logically or administratively possible. Now, I'm a person that likes to push buttons and pull strings and test the limits. You will learn that as you hear about my life story. So one of those things that I did was push those buttons, pull those strings with those administrators. And I ended up getting to the point where I was able to take a bunch of tests to prove my intelligence and everything. And I was able to actually skip 2 grades they gave me the option of. The idea of getting my driver's license a month before I graduated high school, though, was awful to me. I don't know why. That was my deciding factor. So I said, no, I only want to go one grade ahead. So I did 6th and 7th grade all in 1 year at John Muir. And then from there, I was still finding, particularly in math and science, I wanted more. I was craving that curiosity, that knowledge, that learning. I wanted to just be in a setting where I was forced to really think and focus on the class. So I again went to the administrators. By the time they saw my name on their agenda, it was a race again, really. Like it was, I promise I was okay though. It was good problems, I'd like to think. But I went to the administrators again and asked to be placed in Algebra 1 as an 8th grader. And because of the Common Core, a specific curriculum, I wasn't able to do that. So at that point, we actually started exploring going to private school then. And Newman was able to make that happen since they aren't a public institution. So I went there, was able to take Algebra 1 and found a lot more ease in terms of accessing the more intense courses that I desired. I'm a person that doesn't believe in getting a 4.0. I think if I had a 4.0, that was a sign that either the only thing I was doing in my life was school, or I wasn't in hard enough classes. And I haven't had a 4.0 since my freshman year of high school. I firmly stand by that because it's either too much going on where all I'm doing is school, or it's just not enough. You know, I crave that challenge and that curiosity and that learning. So then I went to Newman. My sophomore year of high school at Newman, I asked to start taking dual enrollment courses at the University of Wisconsin, Marathon County. I'm probably still going to call it UW-MC just because that's a habit of mine. I'm very much so ingrained in that. UW-SP at Wausau is still new to me. And I took pre-calc and calc as a sophomore in high school, and I also added on an English course. And I found I loved the pace of those courses. It was finally meeting that challenge that I desired. It was meeting that drive that I had. So when I looked ahead at my junior year, I said, hey, can I take chem at the college? And we ended up actually transferring out of Newman simply because it interfered with Wednesday masses and they wouldn't allow me to miss Wednesday mass. So I ended up switching back to Wausau West, and I was there and I did full-time college enrollment while also being a full-time high school student. Now, what I mean by that, I think it sounds like a lot, but really a lot of it was just like, rather than taking English at the high school, I took it at the college. So I only had one class a semester at the high school. The rest were at the university. So that allowed me to graduate high school with the equivalent of an associate's degree. I don't actually have a degree that says associate, sadly. The only reason is because high school graduation is a month later and you have to have a high school diploma to get a degree. We all found that out the hard way. UW-MC was like, Grace, we're so sorry. Like, we're doing everything we can. They let me walk. They gave me all the graduation gifts. They're like, this is the only thing we can do. But it was still something that was really special to me because everybody at UW-Marathon County is still a part of my journey today, you know, and this is where I come back to that message of utilize this network, utilize these resources. People want to help you. Your professors want to help you. The people sitting in this room want to help you as a young person entering your career of whatever it might be. So that's high school there. Then a little bit of college. So I got into nuclear engineering. I mentioned I researched my freshman year, and then COVID hit my freshman year. Super fun. We all know what happens then. I lost my internship that I had lined up for the summer. You know, everything kind of just disappeared. So my first response is to panic apply to anything and everything that has the word nuclear in it. Literally, I was submitting applications for full-time jobs. I don't know why. It wasn't obviously going to happen. But I found out that I got a call in July of 2020 for a co-op position for a power company out of Illinois. At the time, it was called Exelon. Now it's transitioned to be called Constellation since then. And I never pictured getting a co-op. How many of you, is co-ops a familiar term for college? Okay, for the youth that are shaking their heads, I'm gonna let you guys know, fully recommend it. So it's taking time off of school to go work full time. One, you get paid, which is really, really great in college because college is expensive. The scholarship I received from Rotary helped, but unfortunately it doesn't cover a 4-year degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I took this job because I was able to work full-time with a power company out of Illinois on nuclear power plants. I worked with 12 different nuclear power plants. A program I created was implemented at all 12 power plants. And that's something that's pretty incredible because I'm 20 right now. Not many 20-year-olds have that ability. And on top of that, I did get paid throughout that time. So I took a fall and a spring semester off of school to work with this company. And I also worked with them for a summer. So highly, highly recommend, because now I'll be graduating in 4.5 years now with Miss America. With 2 years of full-time work experience. I've actually worked in the nuclear industry more than I've been in school at this point, which I think is kind of funny. But it's something that's become really special to me. And now I've been able to step into this advocacy role as Miss America, where I can talk about different forms of zero carbon energy and talk about nuclear energy specifically, and many misconceptions surrounding that. So that's the kind of the very long cliff notes of my life. And I'd like to open it up to questions, whether it's about the Wausau area, my violin, the conservatory was a topic of conversation, about my time in the school district here, about college, whatever it might be. So, if there's any, otherwise I'll keep talking, and I don't know if you guys want that. That sometimes leads to some pretty scary stories. Yeah.
So Grace, given your rigorous course of study, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, in 10 years, this is a great question, because 4 years ago, I would have never pictured myself as Miss America. So, I laugh because you make a plan, God laughs at it, is what my mom always raised me with. Right now, the plan is to stay in this similar sort of nuclear advocacy role. The first 5 to 10 years of my career, I want to have a hybrid of communication and engineering, because I firmly believe in staying in touch with engineering. My biggest pet peeve is politicians that are talking about something they have zero experience with. I don't want to be that advocate. I want to be the advocate that has actually touched the buttons, turn the valves, push the whatever, all the levers, whatever it might be. So the early part of my career is really just doing the boots on the ground work with the nuclear industry and being familiar with it, while also on the side still having these public engagements with people, because I'm a big advocate for changing public perception surrounding nuclear energy. So that'll be forever a part of my life, I think. However, it might not be what I imagine right now. Right now, I picture working with a current utility company that's already providing power. Maybe we'll have fusion by then. And maybe I'll be working for a fusion company, which is it's considered the holy grail of energy for those of you that aren't familiar with nuclear fusion. It's basically you can make energy from water as fuel, and there's no harmful outputs. So nuclear science is really, really cool. It's really awesome. Yeah.
What is the biggest misconception that people have about a nuclear engineer?
That the waste.
Specifically a 20-year-old female nuclear engineer.
So are you looking for like the science specifically, or like me?
What do you find people's misconceptions are about your career and choice?
Oh, well, it's super fun being Miss America and a nuclear engineer, because the amount of people that are like, oh my God, you're Miss America. What are you majoring in? And I go, oh, nuclear engineering. And they go, wait, what? Did you just say nuclear? Like, and it's literally, they have to do like, did you say nuclear? I've probably heard that at least 200 times in the past 3 months of being Miss America. So that's something that's a really fun misconception, is to talk about. For me personally, I, as a advocate for women in STEM, I often find that typically women in STEM have to be put in this sort of box. I've talked to a lot of women in C-suite positions right now at power plants, in utilities, in a variety of STEM industries. A lot of them talk about having to physically lower their voice when they're in a boardroom to be listened to and understood. That is changing. That is something that unfortunately won't go away overnight, but that is changing. I personally advocate for wearing heels into the boardroom, wearing a dress, embracing my femininity if I so choose. Whatever that person wants to do, great, good for them. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions for me myself, is this idea that a woman can't be confident and beautiful and all of these things. I wouldn't, everyone, I believe beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I may not be beautiful to you. That's okay, because I'm confident in myself. So, but that comes down to this confidence of who you are and what you stand for and what you want to advocate for as a nuclear engineer, as a doctor, as a welder, whatever it might be. Yeah, back there.
Can you share with us some of the experiences of the Miss America competition? Any highlights or memories that you're going to keep with you for a long time?
Oh yeah, so do you want a cute story or like one of the memories that I will never forget? Okay, we're gonna start with the one I never forget, because this might scar you all. But so you have 51 incredibly accomplished, confident, powerful women all together for a week, so there's women that I like to describe it as a workplace. One of my biggest pet peeves about the Miss America organizations, they're always like, it's your best friends. I'm like, no, I'm not besties with all 50 of them. That's not going to happen. Am I besties with 10 of them? Heck yeah. Like, I love those women. I love all of them, and each and every one of them, I firmly believe, could do the role of Miss America very, very well. Once you get to that level, each and every one of those women inspire me and uplift me. That's one thing that I found in high school I struggled with because I had that unusual academic setting. There weren't many people that I was actually able to really find myself to be close friends with in high school. The Miss America organization gave me that opportunity to meet other powerful, driven, successful women that, didn't look down on me or think I was some weird child genius or think that I was some nerd, I guess, in a sense, in a derogatory manner. I think nerd is a positive thing in my opinion. But so it gave me that opportunity to meet friends. Now, one of these specific memories, this is on day 2 of Miss America. This is very early in the week, okay, that this happened. So Miss Vermont, Massachusetts, and Nevada are essential to the story, and New Jersey. We're going to go by states because that's just going to be easier. New Jersey's in the bathroom, okay? I don't know what happened. Massachusetts, we were laughing, cracking jokes, having a good time with Vermont and Nevada. And Massachusetts, I just remember there's one point where she's laughing so hard and we're eating our meal too. And she's like about to spit her food out. She looks at Vermont, who's sitting to her right, and Vermont just goes, no. And Massachusetts turns to me and I go, no, like you're not going to spit your food. She gets up and goes to the bathroom. She's like, can't do it, laughing too hard. She comes back from the bathroom with New Jersey. She's like, okay, so I walked in the bathroom, I'm throwing up in the sink from laughing too hard. But New Jersey's sitting there drying herself like this under the air dryer. And she's like, what is going on? What is going on in here? So there was 2 very unusual scenarios that I'm just like, what is happening? So New Jersey, for context, spilled a drink on her pants and was trying to dry it off. And it just looks really odd, if you can imagine, to walk into that. So it was just a really good memory that like, it's the laughter that we're literally crying on the floor together from laughing so hard that I really, really treasure. One of the things from the competition itself is I remember, so prior to going into our interview, they have you go in like groups of 4 and you sit in this holding room, right? Because I don't really know why, they just do. But there was me, Texas, Georgia, who were actually in top 5. And then it was just us 3 in the room, actually, because the other one went in right away. So we're sitting in this room. I kid you not, there was 1 chair, not a single painting, like nothing on the wall. It was just like an asylum. It felt like, I'm like, are we? And they literally locked the doors. They locked us in. We're like, what is going on? So that was a really great bonding experience and just some of the fun parts of Miss America. There's obviously, it is a competition and everyone takes it differently. For me, I walked into that week saying, you know what, if they're going to choose me to be Miss America, they're going to choose me for who I am. They're getting all of me. They're either going to like me or they're going to hate me. And there's no in between. And I'm very okay with that. So it was really special to have that opportunity, even in the interview to talk about, there's this one clip that somebody posted. I like to talk about the women who can. That's sort of the legacy and what I represent as Miss America is the women who can. I've been told I read like a Mad Lib, which I find really entertaining, as a classical violinist, a competitive water skier, Miss America now, a nuclear engineer. Everyone's like, how did that all happen, But it's about removing those labels and just doing whatever you want to do. It's representing the women who can. And I have a phrase that I talked about in my interview where it was just saying, listen, I'm all of those things, but I'm also an outdoors woman, a family member, a friend, someone who just enjoys hearing people's stories and uplifting them. And that's just what Miss America stands for, I believe, is uplifting those stories, listening and sharing those stories. Yeah.
You were involved in Girl Scouts as a young lady. Have you gone back? Girl Scouts have a focus on STEM for the past half a decade or so. Have you been able to go back to the Girl Scout organization and share some of your stories with the girls?
Yeah. So I was involved in the form of a presenter. I never actually was a Girl Scout. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mom. I was going to say, I'm like, I might be forgetting something, but I'm pretty sure I haven't been. But it is something that it's an organization that promotes a lot of really good morals and values that I support. I've been involved with a couple of different troop presentations as Miss Wisconsin. Right now as Miss America, there's certain rules and regulations and things that go into building my schedule. So I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but school visits, Girl Scout visits, all of those things are becoming more and more common now that I'm settled into my year as Miss America. Yeah.
Have the Wisconsin utilities contacted you about possibly converting abandoned coal plants into small nuclear?
Yeah, Dairyland Power Co-op is actually looking at doing that. They are a power company based out of La Crosse, and I have had the pleasure of serving on a panel actually in November as Miss Wisconsin. It was before I even became Miss America, with the CEO, the CMO, and a couple of other high people from Dairyland Power. And they've actually got me booked for their annual meeting this year as Miss America. So there's a lot of conversations and a lot of things. I'm not a 100% technical expert. I'm learning more and more about small modular reactors, which is what that technology is. I'm actually working with the company that talks about converting coal plants into nuclear small modular reactors. So to give you all an idea of what an SMR is, take a current nuclear power plant is huge. And you basically have to build it custom to the landscape. Like you have to go through and design it around the plot of land it's being built on, right? And when I say huge, it's really not that huge. It's like 3-4 acres total. But then these small modular reactors are able to be manufactured in a factory and then just shipped to a site and plopped down and put right there, which is insane because that saves on capital costs. And that's a very big problem in the nuclear industry, is the capital cost of building a nuclear power plant. Now take out building a lot of the infrastructure and using a former coal plant, that all of a sudden it makes it even more cheap to build that SMR. So there's a lot of opportunities right now that's going on in Idaho, Utah, New Mexico, Nevada to build those SMRs from NuScale is the company that's really charging that front in America right now. There's many, many others, startup companies that are doing it right now. They've been a pleasure to work with. They're my partner for senior design, and NuScale's been fantastic. So
How much would that power?
depends on how big of a plant you want. It really can do anything you want. So right now, their current design that is going through the licensing processes is scheduled for 70 megawatt thermal hours. So that translates, I don't know how many light bulbs. I used to know that translation really well, but a lot of light bulbs in a lot of homes. So I could quick Google that and get a more realistic translation there. But yeah.
Please explain nuclear fusion and the potential you see with nuclear medicine.
Yes, so power plant basics right now, what's going on in a current light water reactor power plant. So America, 20% of America is powered by nuclear energy right now. All of these power plants are using fission, so an I. Fission is the breaking down of atoms. It's them splitting apart. Fusion, I like to remember building up, is the opposite. It's smashing them together at very high speeds, very high energy scenarios. It's what happens in our sun. That's what our sun does. That's what we're trying to reenact here on Earth. Now, making a miniature sun here on Earth is very hard because it's very, very, very hot. A little bit difficult when it's like 10 million degrees, it can't touch anything, so it'll burn through the entire planet, right? So that comes to this really fascinating process of magnetics and how we would use magnetics to suspend this ball of plasma that's 10 million degrees. So that's what I worked on as a 17-year-old freshman at UW-Madison, was a fusion lab. And it was really, really exciting being a part of that. So fusion is taking two small, very light atoms, smashing them together in very high speed or high energy scenarios, because when they combine together, they release a bunch more energy. And we use that energy to then go through and power our grid. So in December, actually, at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab in California, just created the first net positive energy reaction using fusion, which is really, really exciting for us as a human race moving forward. And then what was the second part of that question? I know and then cancer and medicine, right? Yes. So I think one common misconception and one common lack of knowledge is how nuclear medicine is present today. How many of you have gotten an MRI scan or been in an MRI machine? That's nuclear technology. It first came out as a nuclear magnetic resonance imaging machine, an NMRI. People didn't use it because of the word nuclear, so they just got rid of the word nuclear and they just called it an MRI machine. And now everyone's like, oh, this is super cool, right? So then that dives into a whole subject of the stigmatization of the word nuclear. But it goes to prove a point that nuclear medicine is really quite common. One company in Janesville called Shine Technologies is working on building a manufacturing facility to create molybdenum-99, a certain isotope. Now that's specifically 1 gram. So you go to the diner, you go to IHOP, you go to Denny's, whatever, those little sugar packets, 1 gram one sugar packet of molybdenum 99 has the ability to diagnose 20 million patients. The power density in nuclear science is literally insane, changing lives. When it comes to fission, nuclear power, the fuel we use right now, your entire lifetime, you'll only produce one soda can's worth of waste, which is very, very small. Compare that to coal and natural gas, you're producing literally tons of waste every year using fossil fuels. So that's the big argument, in my opinion, for nuclear power. It's in terms of how much waste it produces, it's not. And it's not even waste, because when that fuel comes out of the power plant, there's still 90 to 95% of its capabilities left in it. A lot of it can be recycled, put back into the plant. A lot of it can be taken apart and used for cancer treatments. Every time, how many of you had a surgery done? A lot. So every time you've gone into a surgery, all of your tools are sterilized by a radiological isotope called cesium-137. Don't quote me on the number, but that's something that's what is cleaning sterilizing all of your tools going into a surgery. So specifically within cancer, radiation treatments is, I think, the more obvious one of how nuclear science is very prevalent. But it's really incredible seeing the research going on across the world. Medicine isn't my specialty, but it truly is all around us. 1 out of 3 times you see your doctor, it's nuclear medicine that's treating you. Yeah.
Grace, talk about what the journey of being Miss America is all about. What's it tended to do? What might be the expectations for you? What's that role doing, and what's it for, and how do you see it happening?
Yeah, so as Miss America right now, this is a full-time salaried position. I earn 6 figures as Miss America, which is one thing I don't think a lot of people know. And on top of that, I've earned $70,000 in scholarships thanks to the Miss America organization. So that $1,000 got me on my feet to really enter into this organization. And now I'm going to grad school for free. If I so choose to go to grad school, I'm still not sure, but that's something that has opened up that door. Miss America, for me personally, when I first started competing in this organization, I was a 13-year-old that didn't really perform my violin well. I couldn't publicly speak. I couldn't answer these questions like this. I didn't feel comfortable interviewing. I went into it to just make my violin performance skills better. And I got over that very quickly. But I found I fell in love with the women I was meeting through the organization, the interview skills I was learning. As a 5'11" woman, literally just learning how to stand up straight. That goes a long ways. Learning how to command a room, create presence, things like that are skills that I found very helpful in terms of my professional career and building that professional career. The network I've gained as Miss America, even prior to Miss America, just as Miss Wisconsin, I was a junior and I had 4 full-time job offers on the table. And I do credit that both to my education at UW-Madison and the co-op I did, but also to my involvement in the Miss Wisconsin organization, because there's not many engineers that can also communicate and talk comfortably. So that's a very rare combination of things, but a very powerful combination of things, and something I think we need to work on as a whole in the engineering world. So does that answer? I was gonna say, because that's my main reason as to why I got involved in Miss America, is the skills, the professional development, and the scholarships on top of that were something that just, it's life-changing.
So what are you engaged in? I mean, you're booked heavily.
Yes.
So who tracks you? Who are you talking to, and who are you presenting for? Is it just all over the map? And
Yeah.
is there a certain diet of certain things you're trying to get involved in and others not, or how do you manage that year?
I am an ambassador for the Miss America organization. So there is a level of appearances that are, I would say, on that caliber, right? On actually, yesterday was Sunday. So Saturday, I actually shook President Trump's hand and took a picture with him, got to meet with him at the Big Dog Rescue Luncheon at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Like it ranges to that, where I'd say, that isn't something I seeked out that I wanted to do, but that is something that the Miss America organization says, hey, we want this to happen. Like, we want to make this high profile event happen. However, looking at, something like this is very different than shaking President Trump's hand. But it's something that's really close to my heart that I wanted to make happen. So it's a blend between the two things, ranging from school visits to, partnering potentially. I'm going to DC at the end of next week. I'm going to be meeting with the National Park Service, the DOD, the Department of Energy, all of these high level government officials, where that's something I wanted to do. I'm a big national park enthusiast, and that's something where I said, all right, national park, America's natural beauty, Miss America, powerful, successful, beautiful women, like, all right, there's got to be some meat in the middle here. But that's something that is really exciting, because I do about 20,000 miles of travel a month. I was at the Super Bowl. I went to the Taste of NFL. I didn't actually go to the Super Bowl, but I was in Phoenix and that area and all of the events surrounding the Super Bowl. But it's really exciting, the opportunities and the people I meet and the things I do. Like I said, it's a combination of organization, standard appearances, but then also things that I want to do to promote my message and my mission.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, back there.
So how do you still like balance everything while still
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm still figuring it out. For me personally, like to give you an idea of one of the particularly tough times in the past 3 months. So I had a point of pretty much 30 plus days in a row of either I was flying, I was on a plane going somewhere, or I was working as Miss America. Now as Miss America, sometimes I have events that are, 2 hours long, but sometimes it's 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. or longer. And it's just constant go, 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 go. And being on all the time can get a little bit exhausting. So that's something that I had reached kind of a breaking point, but it was finding the people that I knew and loved and trusted to talk about things, to be open, to be vulnerable, to cry, to laugh, to sit on the bathroom floor and just have that conversation. That was something that was so special to me, and really helped me through that period of time. But right now it's interesting because I'm still exploring this year, only 3 months in, but figuring out friendships and how to balance that, because I frequently, if I have an hour and a half of spare time, typically I'm going to go sleep or go get ice cream, something like that, not call my friends, unfortunately, because I do a lot of social outgoing appearances. So typically I want to do the inward things during that spare time. So in terms of friendships, I rely a lot on my friends calling me throughout this year. One of my friends said it best. She's like, Grace, I get it. I've got to be the one to put the effort in this year. She's like, next year, it might be the opposite though, forewarning. And I was like, that's fine. I'll have a lot more free time next year. But really making sure that I'm staying balanced through everything. I talked about being on. Sometimes my Miss America appearances, I'm not 100% on. When I'm traveling to Connecticut, none of those people know me, right? Like they're meeting me for the first time. They don't know if my 80% is my 100% or not. So making sure that I'm giving everything I can give, but not too much, because I need to keep a little bit for myself too. I like to say just making sure that there's enough love for me that I can provide for myself. Throughout the whole process. Yeah. What else?
One last question.
So funny thing, Miss America has some unusual rules. I actually can't take my parents with me to appearances normally. This is very unorthodox to have my mom with me.
She's not here.
We're breaking rules right now. She's not here. So there's some like weird rules like that come with the job. And she's actually this is the second one you've come with me to. When I'm in my hometown like this, they don't want to fly their tour managers, because I typically have a travel companion, a tour manager that goes with me to everywhere. They don't want to fly someone else to my hometown when it's, my mom is more than capable of doing it. So, but unfortunately, yeah, it is. Everyone always asks, it's funny when I have my tour managers, because people always be like, oh, is this your mom? And like Teresa is the one that we get that question all the time. And she's like, no, like I'm just her travel companion. And one of the days I was with her, I'm like, maybe we should just start saying yes. I was like, I think it might be easier. But it is really special. And I still get to see a lot of people and see a lot of my family members and close friends and things like that throughout the year. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.